Hey YouTube, today I am so excited because we are finally saying goodbye to these old kitchen tiles. We recently renovated our kitchen and it just doesn't feel totally complete with these old tiles here. They came with the house and they go all the way back into this breakfast nook and into the bathroom. I originally was considering painting these tiles, but I honestly hate the pattern that they were laid in, so I am deciding to go with peel and stick. I chose Floor Pop by Chris and Julia. I chose the maroon and gray tiles, and I'm going to lay them down in a diamond pattern. First things first is I'm going to lay them out before sticking them on. When walking into my kitchen, you can see right to my back door through this little walkway, and I really wanted to make sure that these tiles were in a straight pattern and that none of them were cut off. That was like my main priority, is that at first glance when you walk into the kitchen, it just is a straight pattern. Most people recommend when putting peel and stick tiles down to start in the center of the room, but since this is a room that just connects into others with a walkway, it just didn't seem fit for me. I had been very undecisive about what I wanted to do with these floors for a couple of years now, so when I finally settled on peel and stick, I decided to do a ton of research because I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that was going to last and hold up, especially in a kitchen. That is part of the reason I chose the Floor Pop brand, is just because they have so many amazing reviews and I was able to order them right off of Amazon. Once I had settled on the layout that I was going with, I needed to move this piece of furniture out and clean behind it. I am just going to run the vacuum and then wipe down everything with a warm soapy rag so that the tiles have a clean surface to adhere to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to handle any gapping in between the tiles and how to make them semi-permanent. Especially for a place like a kitchen, you're going to want to make sure that they're as water resistant as possible. So stay tuned for all of my tips and tricks for these. Also, if you're new here, hi, my name's Nissa and I make videos about motherhood and homemaking and DIYs. So first off, I'm starting off with this Gorilla Max Strength glue in clear. It works on pretty much any surface, especially on tiles. I used the clear one in my kitchen and then I experimented with a different glue in my breakfast nook. I am putting it down on the back of the tile in an S-shaped pattern. I knew it was going to be essential that I added more glue onto these tiles because I did read a ton of reviews about people who have had these tiles in areas of their home long term and said that over a couple of years they do tend to lift and that they regretted not putting an extra adhesive on the back of them. So I knew that starting out in a high traffic area that I wanted to just put an extra adhesive on right away. Now, the Floor Pop brand does recommend that you use a primer along with them and that you prime the surface that you are going to lay the tiles on top of. However, again, after reading many reviews, it doesn't seem like that has always been a necessary step for many users, and that glue can be a great quick solution. From watching a handful of videos of people laying down these tiles, a lot of people like to save the backing of them and use them as a template to trace out edges like this. And while this was a effective way to do it, I do not think it was the best way to do it, and I will show you a better way later on in this video of how I like to do it instead. However, saving the backing of these tiles is really important, especially for like odd corners and curves and just places where you're not getting a straight cut. I prefer to use scissors for cutting these tiles. I found that using a razor blade was not always giving me the straightest edges and that I could be more accurate with a pair of scissors. Another thing to consider when laying these tiles down is the shape of your current floors underneath. Because my old tiles were going in a horizontal pattern, I wanted to do the diamond pattern so that they would hide any grooves and unevenness a little bit better. Once I finished the walkway area of my kitchen, I moved my fridge out and vacuumed and cleaned behind that again with a soapy warm rag to make sure that there wasn't any dust or dirt on the floor, and then I continued to repeat the process of laying the tiles. It's so hard to decide. Oh, I know he got me good in his pocket. While I waited for the tiles behind the fridge to dry before moving the fridge back on top of it, I moved into my back breakfast nook, and I wanted to show you another way that you can cut these tiles against the wall. In certain situations, you can just bend your tile right up against the wall and mark a groove and cut right across that. On day one of this project, I had to leave at this point to go pick up my kids, and when I came back I was super tired and just had my husband move the fridge back for me and finished off the rest of the kitchen. I think in day one this took me about 10 hours to finish the kitchen and the walkway area. If you are thinking of doing this project, please give yourself extra time because it is not going to take as quickly as you may think. I thought altogether I would get this done in 2 days, and it ended up taking about a month for me to fully complete it. Now I am going on to day 2 and I have my kids with me, and I am just going to vacuum this area and repeat the process of wiping down the floors and then laying out the tiles. In the back room, I used the Gorilla Heavy Duty Ultimate, and this came out white. I highly recommend this glue over the clear one. I just think it was a lot stronger, and it is the one that I continue to buy and use for the rest of these tiles. I think altogether I went through about 8 tubes of glue between the kitchen, this back room, and the bathroom. Since I have my kids with me, they had to help, and they honestly were such a big help. I really enjoyed doing this with them, and I counted this as our homeschool for the day. Here I am going to show you my preference on how I like to measure out the tiles. I like to put the corner up against the wall and line this up along the seam of the tile and then measure the distance and mark it. And then I turn the tape measure onto the other side and mark it on the other side. And I was having my son do this part so he could understand a tape measure and a straight edge. Then you take your straight edge or level and you draw a line across. Use your scissors to cut the piece, and it should fit perfectly. My oldest son is 5. And he can hold a pencil and count very well and is very interested in just construction projects. So this was a great activity for him. And then my younger son is 3 and he is great at puzzles. So I was just letting him put these tiny pieces in and line them up. On the run from my given disaster, speed away from the holy mind, pride. That's where I never thought it would matter. Once I had this dresser moved back, my daughter also joined us, and she loved ripping the backing off of these tiles and helping me press them down. Out of all the home improvement projects that I have ever done around my kids, this honestly was the easiest. One thing I am very scared of doing around them is painting, because I could just totally see a paint bucket getting knocked over and that being the end of it. Because I am a mom, a lot of breaks had to be made, so I am working at this again at night on the same day and doing the method where I just press the tile up against the wall and bend it and make my cut. And in case you missed it earlier how I measured out this tile, I like to put it along the seam of the 2 tiles already glued down with the point pressing up against the wall. Make one mark and measure the distance from the corner to the mark that I made, and then do the same thing on the other side. And with the 2 marks, I draw a line across and then make my cut. That's why I never thought it would matter. If I'm gone by now, all my weakness keep on linger on repeat like it will be my favorite song. Oh, I know I should be moving on. Moving on to day 3, our oven arrived, so I had my husband set this up for me, and I just am obsessed with it. It has the air fryer feature, which I wanted so badly. The oven setup did take a while, and I did put tiles underneath of the oven, which I didn't have time to film. But now I'm moving on into the bathroom, and I am taking this old caulk out from underneath the toilet. It's really grimy, and I don't want to put new tiles over top of it and just seal this dirt in. I don't know, it creeps me out. I am also going to put fresh caulk over top once the new tiles are down. So this is a scenario where those backs of the tiles really come in handy around door corners, because without these I just feel like it would be really hard to trace the right cut and angles for this space. One thing I will say is that for me personally, these did not come out perfect. There was still some gapping in between the tile and the wall, and that is where I decided to use some pre-mixed grout, and I'll show you how I used it later on in the video. You got me good. Doing this piece in front of the toilet was definitely the hardest out of all of the ones that I did. I did have to cut it a couple of times before I got it right. Thankfully, my toilet was a little loose, so I was able to lift it up slightly and shove it under there so that it lined up perfectly. Face to face in this trashy bar. Now it's time to go in with some plumber's caulk and seal this bad boy in. I personally like to cut my caulk with a razor blade on an angle, and then I like to go over it with my finger just to smooth it all out. All the smoke is in the bathroom. I don't care at all, baby. You got my attention. Alright, this is day 5 of working on these floors, and about 3 weeks have gone by, and I have noticed that the tiles have moved a little bit and there has been some gapping. So that is where this grout is going to come in handy. I chose the color gray. I thought it would look really nice in between the red and the white. And I am just going to go along all of the cracks that I see and fill them in. This might be a process that would have to be repeated over the next couple of months as some settling and shifting goes on, especially if you have an older house. But I just applied it and then used a wet rag to wipe off the excess, and I think that it sealed it in really nicely and made it look more semi-permanent. Also, if you're like an OCD freak like me, I was getting really anal about the thought of like moisture and crumbs getting underneath these tiles from these little cracks, and filling them in just really helped my sanity. Especially since this is a kitchen, and I do feel like spills happen in here a ton with toddlers and just husbands. Who said that? Anyway, the idea of mold growing underneath the tiles was really freaking me out. It's quite a lonely world that we're living in. Oh baby, you are something special, I'm sure. Everything makes total sense when you're next to me. I could never let you go. I did not do a great job at cutting this tile around the door trim, and I do feel like putting this grout in just made the area look a lot cleaner and nicer. You don't see the logic of things. It's quite a lonely world that we're living in. Oh baby, you are something special, I'm sure. Everything makes total sense when you're next to me. Last but not least, I am taking some painter's caulk and I am going to go around all the trim areas that we put the tiles down near and just caulk it all in to, again, seal it in from any water seeping down underneath and getting underneath the trim work and making it look nice and complete. Out of all the steps in this process, to me, this is the one that is a non-negotiable because I really liked the way it looked. I feel like it made the floors look like they were intentional up against the trim, and I did not want any water going underneath my cabinets. Again, for this process, I really like to cut the tip of the caulk tube on an angle with a razor blade, and I like to make it as small as a cut as possible so that not too much caulk is coming out. And I highly recommend keeping a ton of paper towels on hand because I like to smooth this out with my finger, and the caulk is very sticky and you're going to want to wipe it off very quickly.
It isn't hard to tell what you were thinking, babe. Your thoughts are only getting louder. While you are up in space, I sit here by myself. Are you gonna spill the truth or waste your life away? Sitting on your fingertips so I know what you'll say. Baby, don't bother, you know it hurts anyway. Don't bother, as long as you don't say that it's over now, that it's over. We used to talk about getting older. We said we hope.
Now I am in the breakfast nook working on the area underneath of our bar where we have our bar stools at. If you made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I love how this turned out, and I really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video, and I hope that you enjoy the final results. Please consider liking and subscribing. God bless.